I cheated on my husband more than 25 years ago. After 10 years we divorced and now we are giving each other a second chance. Welcome to Castable. Friends, comment what you think about this story, share your experiences, also give me like, subscribe and click on the bell for more Castable stories. Hello everyone. I have been lurking for a while and really appreciate the existence of this community. I have been meaning to post for a while. I married my husband who is currently 58 years old when we were 24 and 33 years old. I got pregnant right away and we had a beautiful daughter. I will call him my husband for simplicity, but we are still legally divorced. My husband's behavior changed during our relationship, and small issues became worse. I wasn't being treated well and I was weak and immature. A couple of years into the marriage, I ended up seeking comfort with a coworker. At first he was giving me advice on how to make my husband fall back in love with me, but the friendship became very flirtatious and things turned physical. When my AP, who was engaged with children, began pushing to take things further and further, I started to pull back as the gravity of what I was doing became clear. I gave in one more time, taking it pretty much all the way before I ended it, and soon after confessed to my husband. He immediately said we were married in name only. I was extremely remorseful and did everything he asked me to do to make things right, no matter how uncomfortable it made me. We stayed together and had 2 more children. However, what I did became an excuse for him to escalate the mistreatment of me, and every time I would push back, he would bring up the cheating. For a long time I let him do whatever he wanted to me, because I knew I deserved it. I went to therapy and learned somewhat to assert myself, and got my husband to come to a session with me, but that backfired and he refused to do therapy again after that. Things continued without improving until one day I woke up and realized that I didn't deserve to be punished for the rest of my life and left him after almost 10 years. I finalized a divorce a year later. After the divorce I lived my life as a single mom and completed a master's degree while working almost full-time. I dated some, with some experiences better than others, as I tried to figure things out in terms of what a healthy relationship was supposed to be. Then one day suddenly, after 6 years after leaving my husband, I had some issues with a family member I was staying with temporarily and needed to move the kids in a hurry. Their dad was told what had happened and wanted the kids removed immediately and said they could stay with him and I could stay too until I found a place. I took him up on this right away with a plan to leave within 6 months. Well, one thing led to another, and one night my husband said to me that he let me go once but he would do everything in his power to make sure he never loses me again. I was incredibly touched by his declaration and we then made love and it was the best sexual experience of my life. A few days later, he started asking me to tell him what I had experienced while we were apart. I refused to tell him and told him why. The reason was that I had experienced a sexual trauma when I was 17 that I shared with him in confidence. I rarely spoke of that experience after it happened because I wanted it buried. But I told him when it came up with another boyfriend who found out, and my husband at the time was my best friend, and when I told him my boyfriend said the guy never forced himself on me, he said my boyfriend was an idiot. But after we started dating, more so after we got married, he started saying things about that incident that hinted that he thought the same way, and after I cheated on him, he started to bring up the incident frequently as a weapon to embarrass me and prove that I was a fool and an easy woman. So I told him that it was none of his business who I had relations with after our divorce and that I could not trust him with this information since he had used it as a weapon against me in the past. I said what he did was his business, too. I didn't care what he had done while we were apart. He then told me he only had relationships with the coworker he briefly dated before we were even officially divorced 3 times, and I said that is his business. I refused to tell him and held my ground. I had a new assertiveness and I don't think he liked it. A couple of weeks later, he brought me to a park and said we need to talk. He told me he had taken days off and used the time to break into my computer. I was completely open with my password as I had nothing to hide, or so I thought. He said he knows I had relationships with a lot of men and wanted me to fill in the gaps with the details so that he can know who I am. I was shocked by this statement, truly horrified. I said there was no way I was going to be forced to tell him anything because he violated my trust. Since I refused, ever since he assumes I slept with every name he came across in my emails, I never even met some of these men in person, and will bring it up during arguments or when he picks a fight, and make statements like I complicated the world and thought I could come back to him. He says he always saw me still as his wife, and I should have known better than to do that to him. I have tried to explain that we were not together. I went all the way to a divorce for a reason, and the reason is that I had no intentions of ever being with him again. So if he knew he couldn't deal with me having moved on, then he should have asked those questions before initiating a reconciliation. We reconciled in 2014, and this has been an ongoing issue ever since. I realize that he sees 2014 as a continuation of our marriage, whereas I saw it as a new beginning for us. He fluctuates between being cold and detached and periods where he is very nice to me and seems to be planning our future together. But deep down, I don't like the way he sees me, and I don't know how to get him away from that narrative that I betrayed him after our divorce, that I was on a mission to have relationships with as many men as possible, and that he doesn't know who I am and can't trust me. The last few months we've been arguing heavily, and he has tried to throw out the incident when I was a teen. I have told him firmly that he is to never bring it up again, as I was sussy * around that time, and him bringing it up takes me to a dark place. Friends, comment what you think about this story, share your experiences, also give me like, subscribe and click on the bell for more Castable stories. Comments about this story. 1. It sounds like you both overcorrected from your infidelity. Your partner escalated to abusive behavior, and you felt obligated to stay with him regardless. You were right to end the marriage, and I want to say that you should be proud of yourself for doing so. It's incredibly hard to leave an abusive relationship. If I can generalize for a moment, WPs tend to have poor personal boundaries, and will often accept a significant amount of damage in the name of reconciliation. Your partner utilized this to put you in an inferior position during your marriage, to no one's benefit. Now that you have grown and developed healthier approaches to relationships, he is trying to return to that old dynamic. Perhaps he feels safer that way, or doesn't trust you, or is trying to overcome some inadequacy. And I can't say for sure, but I doubt that this relationship would fare any better than the last time, if he got his way. So, not a lot you can do, I'm sorry to say. He needs intensive therapy with a trauma and/or adultery specialist, and a severe adjustment of attitude concerning your past together. If he doesn't get support, he'll likely continue to be dysfunctional and possessive, trying to balance an equation that can't be. At which point, the only healthy thing you could really do is walk away. I'm really sorry you're in this position. OP, I agree, he absolutely needs intensive therapy. I can't deal with this anymore. I feel like I'm losing all the years of progress I've made. I am preparing to walk away again if I have to. I am not afraid to be on my own, and the kids are all grown now. But a part of me still desperately wants us to work. I feel like we could have something great if you would just seriously work on things with me. 2. Seems you two have kinda circled back to before you split up the first time. It's good you're reaching out. Hopefully you can find support here, cause your situation definitely calls for it. It is justified to think that the betrayed partner also has a responsibility to do the job, and it is legitimate for him or her to set boundaries, especially where adolescence is concerned. You do not have to put up with emotional abuse from him. That hot and cold temperament he displays just screams treatment. From my betrayed partner perspective, he's likely not aware or in denial of how dire the situation is. Can you lay out the predictable steps that will happen if things continue as they are? I'm a visual person, so would prefer a written step-by-step with escalating consequences up to you leaving. Include dates and also your boundaries. Also include where you are now on that timeline. You have the right to require he do the work. Sorry for the ask, but it's something I believe would have helped me prior to her affair. OP, yes, I can do this and have an emotional list going that I will write down. We are having our first counseling session on Saturday. I will include the things you suggested. Thank you. 3. I'm just going to put this out there for everyone here. If you cheat on someone, what you deserve is for the relationship to end. That's it. Now it's normal for your spouse at first to be angry. And I think it can be expected that early on there will be yelling and maybe even unkind name or two. When that happens, it's a good idea to separate for a time to calm down. Also, to truly heal, it will probably be brought up for a long time, and it's good to talk about it even if it's difficult. It will take a while for you to earn trust again. All of this is typical. Here is the thing, you don't deserve to be tortured and repeatedly abused. You don't deserve to be belittled for yours. You don't deserve to have it held against you for years, especially when an effort is being made and the BS commits to staying together. You don't deserve or have to do anything sexually or emotionally that is humiliating to you. And no, you don't deserve it. None of that is okay. You can care very deeply about making it right and still have hard boundaries about the things I listed in the last paragraph. OP, you shouldn't have cheated, that was wrong, but in this case you are 100% right. You are not married anymore. The dude is bad news, you are still not married and he is breaking into your stuff. It won't work out, just move on before it blows up again. There was a reason why you divorced him the first time. 4. What you did while you were divorced is none of his business. You were divorced. I'm sorry, but I worry this is about control. He uses your past sexual trauma against you. He wants to know details of your relationship's life when you weren't together to do the same. Working through your affair is one thing. But that's not what he's doing. Friends, comment what you think about this story, share your experiences, also give me like, subscribe and click on the bell for more Castable stories.